Hello, Catherine Foley here, live at 5, and I'm going to read a chapter from my book Beyond the Breakwater. And today's chapter is 68, the SS Kincora, the steamship Kincora. Our painting of the SS Kincora remained unloved for years, hidden in the back room until RoseAnn and my mother took it to a restoration artist. When we saw the beautiful old oil painting come to life in all its glory, our curiosity was tweaked. What was the story behind this turn-of-the-century steamship Kincora? She was built in 1895 by Hawthorne, Leslie and Company of Newcastle in England and owned by the Malcolmsons of Waterford City. She plied her trade between Limerick and Liverpool, carrying general cargo, occasionally calling on the homeward or outward journey to Feenet or Galway. She was a fine 230-foot vessel, a steel screw steamer grossing nearly 1,000 tons. She had a 32-foot beam and a depth of 14.5 feet. There is something tantalising about this modest painting. Perhaps it's the fact that the Kincora was just a working coastal steamship with one funnel and backup sails fore and aft. She's not showy, and her sturdy lines hint at the nature of the men who worked on board, ordinary, decent men from Limerick, Waterford and Liverpool. The artist who painted the painting, J. Byrne, was one of those painters who used to set up his easel at the end of the pier in Liverpool and paint the various ships that passed in or out in the hope of selling his work to captains who took pride in their vessels. Captain Edward Power from Tramore in County Waterford was captain of the Kincora. He must have liked the painting, purchased it from this pierhead painter and took it home to hang on his wall. We don't know how it came to be in our possession, but we thought it was possible Captain Power may have known our grandfather, Captain Joe Martell, who was a river pilot on the River Suir. Captain Joe Welsh, a river pilot on the River Suir, and had given it to him at some stage. As we continued to uncover her history, we learned that the Kincora was lost after only 6 years in service. On her last morning, she was steaming along off the south coast of Ireland, away from the port of Limerick on her way to Liverpool, carrying a cargo of hay and one paying passenger. It was not long after midnight. It was the early hours of Thursday, the 8th of August, 1901, when she was passing the Tusker Rock just off of County Wexford. There was dense fog. And then the giant-sized ocean liner, the Oceanic, as if out of the blue, came across her bows. The White Star Line ship was on her way to New York with 1,200 passengers on board. In spite of both ships using their foghorns, the Kincora and the Oceanic, a collision occurred with fatal results for the Kincora and 7 of the crew. There was just enough time for ropes and ladders to be thrown down to the little steamship from the great liner. Some of the survivors used these to come aboard. 2 lifeboats were also put out by the Oceanic. 14 men, including Captain Power and 10 of his crew, 2 stowaways, and the ship's one paying passenger, a Mr. J. Toppin from Limerick, were hauled aboard. Of the others, there was no trace. One of those who perished was George Collins, a fire stoker, who went back down below in an act of heroism to turn off the boiler and prevent it from exploding. He left his wife and 7 children destitute in Windmill Street in Limerick. But it's believed his bravery prevented the Kincora from blowing up under the port bow of the Oceanic. Had that happened, she would have caused much greater damage. Within 7 minutes, the ship was gone. The Oceanic waited and searched until dawn. As the day came up, the great liner continued on to Queenstown. Once she'd berthed, the surviving men were left ashore. 3 months later, the Admiralty Court in Liverpool ruled, finding that both ships had been proceeding at moderate and excessive speeds, but no real blame was ever apportioned. But at home, here, we wondered about the drowned sailors and the broken ship that was lying on the seabed off the Tusker Rock. Eventually, we convinced T.G. O'Cahir to commission a documentary about the ship, and so RoseAnn, my sister, began digging further. During her research one day, out of the blue, she ran up to me and because she had learned that a body had been washed up along the coast of Wexford just beside Feathert-on-Sea some 3 weeks after the ship went down. She uncovered the inquest report. The coroner's court had established that Charles Sackett of Byron Street in Liverpool was a member of the crew of the Kincora. We then learned that his family had never come to claim his body in Ireland. They never knew he was buried in Feathert-on-Sea until RoseAnn contacted them 100 years after the tragedy. And so, on a grey, overcast day, we drove to the little village of Feathert-on-Sea and the picturesque church of St. Mogues to meet the descendants of Charles Sackett, who had travelled over from Liverpool to pay their respects and to meet us for the film. The rooks were swooping down over the headstones when we walked down to an unmarked grave. That's where we stood, remembering the tragedy that took place on the 8th of August in 1901, when the Kincora sank and 7 men lost their lives. So, painting is there. And that's all for today. Talk to you tomorrow for the last reading, and I hope you're all well, and we'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.